I grew up with an alcoholic father and he was super narcissistic. He puts me down a lot, like I'm too calm, I'm stupid, I'm not educated enough and all that stuff.
My father was my first bully, and that's the case for a lot of other women. And
Dad, am I adopted? Like, you actually have to tell me seriously now because I'm 13. And dead ass in front of all of my friends, he went, Maisie, you're not adopted. Don't you think if we were going to adopt a child, we'd choose a pretty one?
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the long-term effects of having daddy issues. For some people, their dads were their first bullies. For some girls, their dad was the first man to be misogynistic to them. Let's watch this clip together.
my father was my first bully, and that's the case for a lot of other women. And though it brings me comfort to know I was not alone in this, it also brings me no joy to know that so many women experienced this. Here's stories I received from other women. I was probably 7 or 8 and I was looking at myself in the mirror. My dad came up to me and just went, "Don't look in the mirror too long or you'll start to think you're prettier than you actually are." I'm 22 now and it still rings in my head, not gonna lie. Mine started at about 8 or 9. I ran and told him that a boy tried to abuse me and he told me not to lie. Then he invited the boy and his family on a family vacation with us. My father used to scream if we touched the fridge door handle, "You've eaten enough and get the away from there." He only did it to his daughters. My brother could eat whatever they wanted. I developed an eating disorder. My father told me to never come to him for help or money in life. He said, "You're a woman. If you have no money, then you're stupid because anyone who has needs to use it to make money." I was 17. I'm a trans man, but even as a little girl, I got less attention than my brothers, and even at one point heard my dad whisper, "Someone needs to shave her legs," while I was wearing a dress outside in the summer. To this day, as a man, I still worry about being ugly because of my legs. He only truly seemed to pay attention to me after I started to transition, and I don't know if that's just him generally improving or if it's because I became a son instead of his only daughter. My dad shot me in the back with a BB gun at age 10 because he wanted a moving target. My dad started what he called turtles very young. If I was crying or being naughty, he would pin me on the floor and lay on top of me, crushing me into a little ball underneath him. He would only let up if I was perfectly still and silent and didn't resist him in any way. This conditioned me early on to not resist when men physically overpower me. I was 7 years old wearing strappy sandals that reminded me of Barbie shoes, and my dad said I looked like a stripper.
Let's look at some comments. My father called me a whore all the time in high school. Mind you, I was a virgin. Straight A student, didn't even have a boyfriend. So now he can pay for his own nursing home. Not my problem. So many men hate females, even their own daughters. Correct. For so many misogynistic men, their first victims, aside their wives, were their daughters. I told my dad that I was getting bullied and he asked, "What have you done to cause it?" I got raped and my dad came to comfort me. As I was crying on his shoulder, he said, "You're getting my coat dirty, get up." And the police looked absolutely mortified at him. There's a hell of a lot more, but they are the only two that ring to me. I used to have a friend who got raped at a very young age. Mind you, her dad was a pastor, by the way. And I recall she said the heartbreaking part for her was getting slapped by her dad. And her dad not believing her. Instead of her dad taking proper actions, her dad, in fact, started negotiating with the so-called rapist. Mind you, this was a girl of about 11 or 10. And her dad actually blamed her for getting raped. Now tell me what in the world can heal that kind of pain and disappointment. Now this one says, "My father bullied me, including corporal punishments, primarily because of my weight. I have always been plus size, but now I am obese. Have a horrible relationship with food and have been fighting against myself for 40 plus years. At one point, I was about 18 or so, getting ready to go out. He took one look at me and said, 'If I were a guy, I would definitely not duck you.'" Other gems both my parents have offered me include "You are stunning" only from the neck up. Oh my goodness. Backhanded. It is said that you get your nurturing from your mother, but you get your confidence and sense of who you are from your dad. And 100% that is true, because most women with daddy issues struggle with self-confidence, self-worth, and a lot of issues that we're going to be seeing in this video.
On my 13th birthday, my room wasn't cleaned exactly how my dad wanted it to be, so he screamed at me, telling me I can't do anything right, and had me call each one of my friends, sobbing, to tell them that my birthday's cancelled. After a few hours of crying, he let me call back one of my friends and let her come over, and then he took us to the mall with $70. My friend hadn't brought any money, and she really wanted these magic cards, so I bought her them. They were like $20. And then after that, I got myself a couple of shirts. When we got back to the car, I then got in trouble and grounded because now apparently I also didn't know how to spend money because I only had gotten a couple of shirts and that's it. A few years later when we moved, he wanted to paint my bedroom upstairs, so he had me tape the edges off. He came back upstairs to see the work that I've done and he got pissed. Like, to this day, I still have no idea how I managed to tape up the wall so wrong that it led to this reaction, but he said that I was useless and made a huge show of ripping all the tape off the wall, and again, I can't do anything right, and then he told me that I should just leave. So I left and I went to a nearby park, and I sat there for hours crying until eventually I got in trouble for staying there too long. Growing up, I was never allowed to make any mistakes. I was never allowed to learn from any mistakes. If you didn't do something perfectly the first time, you're just stupid. And even though it's been like 7 years no contact, I still struggle every day talking nice to myself. Like, I never learned how.
Now that I'm at the age of 30, I finally realized my dad never really liked me. And maybe it's because I do look like my mother who passed away in a car accident. Maybe it is because I do resemble everything about my mother, but that is not my fault. Like, I've been studying up on narcissistic abuse, and I've just been realizing that I am a complete fucking victim of narcissistic abuse. Excuse my eyebrows because I got them tinted. I am a complete victim of narcissistic abuse my whole life. I'm talking about I've been getting beat on by my father. I've been getting treated like shit. Due to him not being able to control me, he chose not to sign me into school so I can graduate because, yeah, that was just his form of discipline, not making sure that I graduated high school when I wanted to go. My father, knowing that I needed women in my life, and the fact that he told my stepsister that to stay away from me at the age of 16 when I had just moved back in with him because I was no good. A lot of things just getting revealed about narcissism, it makes a lot of sense. Now, not even that. The fact that I started healing myself, the fact that I started realizing, I attract narcissistic men is because I was raised in a narcissistic, toxic environment, which a lot of our parents will not agree with, or they won't admit that they are toxic and that they were not good human beings.
Personally, I think there's a correlation between misogyny and narcissism, because most misogynistic men possess narcissistic traits. Growing up in this kind of environment is very unsafe for a girl child, because the long-term effect of daddy issues, according to psychologists, is very detrimental to the self-esteem of a girl child. And like I said earlier, we get our nurturing from our mothers, and we get our confidence and validation from our fathers. And if a girl child does not get that validation from her father, she goes out there seeking it out in other men. It shows up in her need for attention, male validation, craving for compliments from men, not believing in herself, not having a good sense of worth, not being confident, always seeking for men to validate her, to tell her she's beautiful. And it shows up in not being able to set boundaries, because you were not protected as a girl child. So you don't know what love feels like. You don't know what being protected feels like. You don't know how to protect yourself and create a safe space for you around people. Why? Because you didn't feel protected as a child. You don't know what safety feels like. Your dad never gave that to you. Coming from me personally, who grew up with daddy issues, I can tell you for a fact that the long-term effect is very terrible. And if as a girl with daddy issues, you're not conscious of this early, you're going to be a people pleaser, you're going to be seeking validation from men 24/7, you're not going to have a good sense of worth. In fact, another part is hyper independence, because you've not learned to trust in people. And it can even show up in relationships, how you choose men. You may not be able to choose a healthy relationship.
But the way that they treated me as a little girl, as a kid, as an infant who was looking for her mother because her mother died in a car wreck, shame on y'all. I mean, the abuse that I went through as a kid is crazy. The simple fact that I used to really go to school with my legs purple and pink because my father could not control his overgrown ass anger is crazy. The fact that a lot of family members think that it was okay for the abuse that we went through, even crazier. And then they will try to say, oh, you act this way, or you have a mental issue, not knowing that their narcissism is the reason why we have these fucking issues. It's them. It's your fault. Y'all fault. But they won't admit it, because they were perfect parents, right? They raised us the perfect way. Yeah. I'm starting to realize my fucking dad's mom is a enabling ass woman who was a pick-me. She was a pick-me, and the way that she also treated her stepkids were not right, to the point it made a toxic pattern to what my dad feels like should be the proper example of a stepmother for his kids. So when y'all talk about my attitude, or you talk about, oh, she's too this, she's too that, don't forget, my mother died when I was a baby in a car wreck. My dad used to abuse me, beat my ass. We had a stepmother who told us every day she didn't like us. I mean, we were practically unwanted our whole lives. I mean, our dad used to come home every day and act like we were a problem. The only thing that was the light of his life was his little son, my little brother, Christian, which I love my little brother so much, even though he's autistic. But karma comes in plenty ways.
When I was younger than I am now, which I'm not old, I'm actually 16 years old at heart, but anyway, when I was younger, like growing up, I was absolutely convinced that I was adopted. I don't know why, I was just absolutely I was convinced, you couldn't tell me otherwise. And so I heard that people who are adopted normally get told on their 13th, like when they turn 13. So on my 13th birthday, I'm going go-karting. Okay, Lando Norris, whatever. I don't know why I was going go-karting. That's never been something I'm truly interested in, not enough to warrant having a birthday party based around it. And I feel like anytime I have been go-karting, I found it quite traumatizing. But anyway, I'm on my way to go-karting with my friends, turning 13. Yeah, it's my big one, right? I say to my dad, am I adopted? You actually have to tell me seriously now because I'm 13. And dead ass in front of all of my friends, he went, Maisie, you're not adopted. Don't you think if we were going to adopt a child, we'd choose a pretty one? Come again? Come again. Come again. What do you mean? What do you mean? We would choose a pretty one. Well, you did come again, didn't you, Poogan? Because you had 3 kids, and if any of us are going to be considered ugly, I think that's a reflection on you, pal, not me. Okay? That my dad was and will forever be my first and most vicious bully. This is the same man that when I was maybe, 7 years old, God forbid I didn't know everything about the world at 7 years old, or how babies work, but I used to think that when someone said how many pounds their baby was, that's how much they had to pay to take them home. Okay, yeah, maybe a bit of a dummy thing to think, but God forbid I was 7, and I was 10 pounds when I was born. I was a heifer, right? I was the size of a small turkey. You could feed a family of 5 with that. And my dad said, if we had to pay £10 for you, you'd still be at the hospital.
Those are heartbreaking words to hear from one's father. How would you have a good sense of worth? How would a girl believe that she's beautiful and she's worthy of nice things, she's worthy of a healthy relationship, of a good man? This is how a girl's mind is messed up, to the point where she begins to see the mere attention and presence of a man in her life as a privilege, that she would literally do anything to sustain that. The first man to ever tell her she's beautiful, she's off with him, because she's going to have zero standards for men.
I grew up with an alcoholic father and he was super narcissistic. He puts me down a lot, like I'm too calm, I'm stupid, I'm not educated enough and all that stuff. And he always told me like, you have to model, you have to do something with your appearance and stuff. And I think a really important lesson I had to learn is that especially these things he didn't like in me and he criticized a lot about me are my gifts. Like, these were things he was never able to appreciate in himself. And I'm 25 now and I try to really accept these things again and start to love them. And actually I think these are my biggest gifts. Like, it's not about my appearance, that's the most uninteresting thing about me. It's more about that I'm really quiet, that I'm calm, that I love to watch people, that I love to listen to people and soak up everything like a sponge. I hated this part so much, but it's actually my superpower. So whatever you hate about yourself, look deeper inside yourself. Why do you hate it? And probably it's your gift, and it's something many people would really appreciate.
Things my dad did that were unhinged, but his attempt to try and punish me. So for those that do not know, for those people that are new here, my dad was... And these are things which he did when I was younger, throughout my whole childhood, to try and punish me, basically. And, you know, I would say they get progressively worse, but they literally don't, because they're all as bad as each other. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that my dad would do is he would stop the car really hard to make it look like we were going to crash. So that sounds insane, but let me explain. I told you these were unhinged. So if we were in the car and I was talking too loud, or I said something he didn't like, or maybe I was just there existing and he didn't like that, he would deliberately put the brakes on, like slam the brakes on so hard, swerve the car to make it feel like we were going to crash, and he would threaten that he was going to crash to, you know, hurt us, whatever. So yeah, he would do that quite a lot. He's done that on so many different occasions, but I remember this happening multiple times. He left when I was 13, so I could have been any age here, from the age of 0 to 13. He did that multiple times, so I could have been any age. I just remember it happening quite a few times. If you're still with me, I did tell you they were unhinged. You were warned. So let's move on to number 2. So another thing that he would do is if him and my mum had an argument, he would not speak to me the whole time. He wouldn't speak to my mum. So for some reason, and again, I could have been any age. I could have been anywhere from 0 to 13. Anytime they had an argument, he wouldn't speak to me. Just because he fell out with my mum, he would take sides. So instead of like just talking to me as normal, because it was my mum he'd fell out with, he wouldn't talk to me. So like I could have genuinely been 5 years old and he would not speak to me for 3 months because he'd fell out with my mum, and in his brain that was like me and my mum were on a side and he was on a side, and it was like, even though the argument was nothing to do with me, I was 5 years old, like I hadn't done anything wrong, but he would literally not talk to me for months at a time because he'd separated from my mum, or they'd fell out, or they'd, you know, broke up and got back together. He would just ignore me completely, nothing, no words, no messages, nothing. Another thing my dad would do to like punish me is he would throw things all the time. So glasses, literally anything he could get his hands on, like a mirror, he would like smash a mirror. He put his hand through the glass door multiple times, like punching it, and like broke it. Like anything that he could get, anything that was near him, that is what he took his anger out on. And say if I'd done something to annoy him, instead of just telling me that I'd annoyed him, he would like throw a glass or throw something, throw his phone, throw my phone, like anything, just to punish me. Rather than saying it in words, he would use actions and violence. So he couldn't like punish me just by saying, go to your room, you're grounded. He had to do something violent, something physical, and something that then made me scared, because I was 5 years old and my dad's chucking glasses and chucking
chucking things around, smashing mirrors, smashing doors.
A daughter often learns from her dad how men treat women by how her dad treats her. Whether her opinions matter, she learns if she's lovable or if she deserves respect and protection. So if dad is emotionally present, warm, engaged, interested, and protective, she learns, oh, I matter. But if dad is emotionally unavailable, critical, intimidating, absent, inconsistent, she interprets that as she does not matter. She will begin to question her self-worth. And this is what eventually causes a lot of women to become performative, people pleasers. And here's the most painful part. A lot of them do not often realize in time to hold their dads accountable or responsible for them feeling this way. They will often interpret it as, oh, something about me wasn't good enough, wasn't worth being seen, being loved, being cherished, being protected. Not knowing that they're actually the victims in the situation. From one of the clips I played, one of the ladies said her dad was very critical of her. And one of the long-term effects of that is that you begin to criticize yourself. You forget to give yourself grace when you make mistakes. You become a hyper-perfectionist. And we know what criticism, overly criticizing ourselves can do to one. You'll never be satisfied. There's no room to feel good about yourself. There's no room for compassion toward yourself. There's no room for growth. You look in the mirror and you're not happy with yourself. And this is how people fall into depression, because you're not giving yourself grace. You're not allowing yourself to make mistakes and be human. For a lot of women, they would forever be working to prove their dads wrong. They would forever be trying to win their dad's validation. Forgetting to live for yourself. Forgetting that you have your own life to live. So these are the long-term effects.
Did anybody else's dad used to get weird when you first started your period? For me, when I first started my period, my dad specifically told me that I was not allowed to use tampons because he fully believed that it prepares you for having sex. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not. And I obviously was 14 when I first started, so I didn't know if that was true or not, so it always freaked me out about using them, so I never used them. And my parents were divorced, so they would always try and disagree with each other about everything, and my mom would say, oh my god, that's not true, that's so stupid or whatever. So she would let me use them when I was at her house, but when I was at his house I was not allowed to use it. And if he found out that I was using them, he would flip out. I think when I was older and he did find out that I was using them, he was he didn't even say anything about it because he was so mad. Anyways, yeah, was that a normal dad thing, or was that just me? I feel like I've definitely seen stories like that on TikTok, but I was just thinking about it today for some reason. I have no idea why, and I was like, huh, interesting.
And if you grew up with this kind of father in these kinds of conditions, I want to tell you that your dad was a misogynist. Your dad thought so lowly of you because he was a misogynist. Your dad did not think you were good enough because he hated women. It has nothing to do with you. I know a lot of people that grew up in this kind of conditions oftentimes find themselves blaming themselves, believing that they were the problem, and if only they had done the right thing. Yes, I know that's manipulation. That's how parents make you feel like it's your fault. And we internalize this and we take it up onto adulthood, and some of us never take control of our lives. We keep on living to impress our parents, and we keep on seeking their validation up until adulthood. A dad that would convince you that your period is disgusting, that's a misogynistic man. He hates the feminine, because periods are what makes a woman a woman. So if a dad or a man is hating on his child because she's on a menstrual cycle, that's a misogynistic man.
I saw something online the other day that's really stuck with me, and it was a quote that said, my father stopped loving me when I became a woman because he does not like or respect women. And that has really stuck with me. I feel like that's one of the awkward coming of age of coming into womanhood things that a lot of people don't talk about, but so many women under that post were like, oh my god, this just clicked for me, this resonated for me, silently reposting. So many women experience this same feeling, but we don't often talk about it. One of the hardest coming of age things is realizing that a lot of the men who helped raise you or who you grew up around were very, very misogynistic. They don't like women. They don't respect women. They say crazy things about women. And one day you are going to go from daddy's little girl to being the same woman who's just like those bitches and females and etc., that he talks so badly about. And now that I'm coming into my womanhood, I am fully experiencing that. And the funniest thing about it is whenever you call out misogynistic men, you're like, okay, well, what about the women in your life? Like, what about your sisters, your mother, your daughters, your granddaughters, your spouse, etc.? Like, what about all these women in your life? Whenever you call them out, they're like, well, my niece different, my daughter different, my girlfriend different. I'm not talking about them. Yes, you are also talking about them. You're also talking about them. It's just like they don't see how this same rhetoric that you're spewing out about women and females and bitches and hoes, that also applies to the women around you, including your daughters, including your nieces, including your girlfriends and your spouses, including your mother. Like, you're talking about them too. It's the same as like if I, as a black person, were to hang out with a very proud and loud racist who hates other black people, and they're like, oh, well, she different, she's one of the good ones. That's exactly how y'all sound. That's how y'all sound, foolish. You're not, there's no difference between the women in your lives and the proverbial woman that you hate. They're one and the same. Like, no shade, not trying to throw nobody under the bus, but I've even had to check my own father about this, because sometimes he says things that are just so ignorant and hateful about women and, like, you know, womanhood in general, that I'm like, why would you say that? You literally have 3 daughters. How do you think that I can't speak for my sisters, but how do you think that makes me feel as a woman when you're like spewing such hate about women? In what world do you think that I would want to continue to talk to you? In what world do you think that if I were to bear a daughter into this world, that I would want her to be around, you know, her grandfather, if this is the type of stuff that you say? So it's like, I feel like, I don't know. It's just so hard coming to reality and coming to terms that you are no longer daddy's little girl. You are no longer, oh, the sweet innocent child. Like, you are also one of the same bitches and hoes and females that they detest. So, and beyond just my personal father, like, other men in my life are just heavily misogynistic and don't clock it, like uncles, cousins, grandparents, etc. Like, y'all, misogyny is bigger than just, like, again, saying, oh, I hate women, or a woman's place is in the kitchen. Okay, like, yeah, we know that's misogyny, but, like, it's even in the small things of, like, how we talk about our little girls, how we talk about, you know, our teenage daughters, how we talk about stuff like that. Like, misogyny is just so much deeper and bigger than that. It's so much more insidious than that. So, saying all that to say this, if you are like me and the hundreds of women who were in that comment section also saying, like, oh my god, like, I similarly had a revelation when I became a woman that some of the men who helped raise me are actually misogynistic. If you are in that same boat, 1, I am so sorry. And 2, you absolutely have the right to cut those people off and not talk to them, or at least, like, reduce communication with them.
I 100% believe that if a man is misogynistic, no one is exempt from his wrath, from his misogyny, not even his daughter. I don't believe you can hate on women, other women outside, and not the women in your household. And you're not going to tell me that when it comes to your kids or your wife or any female that you claim to love is going to be different. No. I grew up in a home where my brother was a red pillar, a pure misogynist. My dad died at a very young age when I was 3. Like, I can't really talk about my dad. But my brother, my eldest brother, was the closest person to a dad that I grew up with. So, and he was very misogynistic. But honestly, if you ask me where he learned it from, I have no idea. We live in a patriarchal world, so of course he goes to school. He hangs around men, so I know he learned it from one of them. He was very misogynistic at home, from the things he would tell me, from the things he would say. But my brother never said anything nice about women around me. I think I grew up with a lot of internalized misogyny, and it was all thanks to my brother. He made it a point of duty to tell me how stupid, incapable, dumb women were. Somebody as misogynistic as my brother, you would think his relationship life would be different. Maybe if he loves a girl, he'll probably be nice, he'll be a sweet man, or the woman he loves is going to be an exception. But I tell you, it's the same with all the women I know that he's been with. I've seen him be misogynistic, even to women that he claimed to love, women that he was involved with romantically. Misogyny does not automatically change because it's his daughter involved, or it's a woman he loves that is involved. These men have already shaped an ideology about women, a negative ideology about women, and it's not going to change because you're his daughter or you're his wife, you're his lover. They extend it to family members, to romantic partners, to their kid, to their daughters, to every female around them. Oh, he's not being misogynistic to you, he loves you. Wait for a period of time, it just takes time. He would eventually show you his true colors. What I want us to know as women is that the fact that you grew up in this kind of situation, it doesn't mean that it has to affect your whole life. You need to be conscious of whatever self-deprecating belief that you have about yourself and put in the work to get yourself out of that messy mentality. In this video, we've mentioned a lot of traits that are linked to having daddy issues. So if you see any of these traits in you, you should seek for help. I grew up having daddy issues, a lot of daddy issues. But it got to a point in my life where I needed to work on myself. I needed to start loving myself. And I saw where it came from, and I took a conscious effort to always tell myself that I was enough. I started working on myself, and I've grown so much that a lot of my daddy issues do not affect me anymore. One mistake by one person should not define your entire life. I would love to hear what y'all think down below in the comment section. And we've come to the end of this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Don't forget to leave your comments down below in the comment section. Have a blessed day. Bye.